Some killers don't just snap. They build up to it. Years of threats, assaults, and warning signs, ignored, minimized, or explained away, until one day the violence finally explodes, and the rest of us are left asking how nobody stopped them sooner. Tonight, we're looking at 5 violent offenders whose escalating behavior ended in cold-blooded murder. From a double homicide hidden behind a house fire, to a cross-state killing spree, to a man who called himself Psycho and left burned bodies in rural Colorado. This is 5 terrifying criminals whose violence only got worse.
January 2024, Davenport, Iowa. Fire crews were called to a house at 5210 North Division Street. They expected what they always do: flames, smoke, maybe a rescue. What they found instead turned a routine fire call into a homicide investigation. Inside the burned home were 2 bodies: Brian Goodwin, Amy Smith. At first glance, they looked like fire victims, but the autopsies told the real story. Both had been shot in the head before the fire ever started. Someone had murdered them, then tried to burn the scene to the ground. The man responsible? Devin Bray. Bray was not a stranger off the street. He had personal connections to the victims and a background that showed escalation, not impulse. Investigators quickly realized this was more than a crime of passion. It was calculated. At the scene, forensic teams recovered bullet casings, blood evidence, traces of accelerants used to start the fire. The burn patterns made it clear the blaze was deliberately set after the shootings, a failed attempt to erase what had already been done. Detectives dug into Bray's story, his relationship with the victims, his movements before and after the fire, inconsistencies in his statements. Witnesses reported his suspicious behavior. Digital forensics placed him where he shouldn't have been. Expert witnesses explained how the fire started, how the bullets traveled, and why the official story didn't match Bray's version at all. In 2025, Devin Bray went on trial for first-degree murder, assault during the commission of a crime, abuse of a corpse, and second-degree arson. Piece by piece, the prosecution laid out the narrative. 2 people shot in their own home, then set on fire by a man who thought flames would wipe his slate clean. The jury didn't buy his defense. Verdict: guilty on all major counts. Sentence: life in prison without parole. The fire that was supposed to hide his crime ended up exposing everything.
By 2017, 24-year-old Austin Butane had already built a life around crime, theft, drugs, violence, and a face you didn't forget. Tattoos across his neck and arm, and a teardrop under his eye that media would soon fixate on. Late October, Golden, Colorado. 63-year-old Mitchell Engel lived alone in his trailer, quietly, off most people's radar. Butane and his wife Kathleen showed up there to drink and smoke. What started as a visit turned into a robbery and then a murder. During a dispute, Butane slashed Engel's throat, killing him. The couple stole his pickup truck, his guns, and headed west. 3 days later, in Salt Lake City, Utah, they struck again. At the University of Utah, 23-year-old student Chenwei Guo was sitting in his car near Red Butte Canyon when the Butanes targeted him in an attempted carjacking. Austin Butane shot Guo multiple times, killing him almost instantly. He then tried to kidnap a female passenger, but she managed to escape and raise the alarm. Now police had a murdered student in Utah, a murdered retiree in Colorado, and the same couple crossing state lines in a stolen truck with stolen guns. Investigators quickly connected the dots. Evidence from Engel's trailer, stolen firearms and property, was found near the Utah crime scene. Kathleen eventually cooperated with authorities and laid out what happened.
Her husband's role in both killings, their flight from Colorado to Utah, the violent spiral they were living in. A multi-state manhunt followed, ending with Austin's arrest. His distinctive tattoos, already in law enforcement databases, made him instantly recognizable. In Utah, he faced aggravated murder, kidnapping, robbery, and more. To avoid the death penalty, Butane struck a deal. He pleaded guilty to the murder of Chenwei Guo. The sentence, life in prison without parole. Colorado has continued its own case over Mitchell Ingalls' killing. Kathleen Butane received her own charges for her role in the crimes, criminal solicitation, theft, and involvement in both murders. 2 states, 2 victims, 1 man whose violent life finally caught up with him.
Fall 2020, Southern Colorado. Deputies responded to reports of smoke on farmland near the small community of Los Sauces in the San Luis Valley. What they found in the burn pits would uncover one of Colorado's most disturbing murder sprees in decades. The man eventually tied to it called himself Psycho. His real name? Andre Jordan Burroughs. Burroughs grew up in southern Colorado, small towns, long stretches of highway, and a local reputation that followed him everywhere. Volatile, tattooed, linked to gang activity. His record already included assault, drug offenses, theft. But nothing prepared investigators for what they uncovered in 2020. Between September and November 2020, 5 people disappeared around Alamosa County. Men and women, all locals. Some were acquaintances, some were rivals. All were known one way or another to Burroughs. At first, the disappearances didn't seem connected. Different dates, different circumstances. Then investigators found human remains in burned pits on rural properties, bone fragments, teeth, charred debris. Forensic teams painstakingly sifted through ash and soil, matching remains to DNA and dental records. Gradually, a chilling pattern emerged. All 5 victims were tied to one man, Andre Jordan Burroughs. Over about 7 weeks, Burroughs targeted people he knew, killed them with extreme violence, and tried to destroy their bodies by burning them in remote pits and burying the remains. The methods were consistent, the locations isolated, the brutality undeniable. By late November 2020, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, local sheriffs, and the FBI had formed a joint task force. Evidence, from cell phone data to witness statements, put Burroughs at or near each burn site. He fled to New Mexico. The manhunt ended in Gallup, New Mexico, where officers arrested him without a fight. His tattoo-covered face seen in old mugshots left no doubt about who they had. The investigation spread beyond just him. His brother, Julius Burroughs, was later convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to 25 years. In 2024, Andre Jordan Burroughs faced the full weight of what he'd done. He pleaded guilty to 5 counts of first-degree murder, kidnapping, tampering with deceased bodies, and other related charges. The judge handed down 5 consecutive life sentences without parole, plus an extra 140 years. No parole, no release, just the rest of his life in a cell. For the tight-knit communities in Alamosa County, the case left scars that will never fully fade. A reminder that even in quiet places, true horror can take root.
He didn't hide who he was. It was written all over him. Chosen, inked across the skin, a teardrop beneath the eye, a swastika on the side of the neck. To guards at Florida's Charlotte Correctional Institution, Juan Salazar Diaz was quiet one minute and explosive the next. To a grieving family in Punta Gorda, he is the man who took their son forever. September 2018, Charlotte County, Florida. A 911 call brought deputies to a stretch of roadside brush near Punta Gorda. Beside a car sat a young man, motionless, bleeding out from multiple gunshot wounds. The victim was Tyrone Kennard, 21 years old, openly gay, outgoing, and loved by his community. There was no obvious robbery, no immediate suspect, just a body, a car, and a lot of questions. Then came the evidence: a pack of Newport cigarettes near the body, a fingerprint on the car door, a cell tower ping from a familiar phone number, all pointing toward Juan Salazar Diaz. Detectives tracked Tyrone's stolen vehicle. It was eventually found abandoned, and inside they recovered DNA that matched Salazar Diaz. His record was already ugly: assaults, theft, weapons charges. He had been released only months earlier under Florida's prison release reoffender statute, a law meant to punish repeat offenders more harshly when they reoffend. Now he was back in the system for something far worse. Cell phone data traced his movements that night, from his home to the scene of the killing, away again afterward. The cigarette butt with his DNA and the print on the car door sealed the case. When questioned, he denied everything. Then his story changed, and changed again. In June 2024, almost 6 years after Tyrone's murder, Salazar Diaz did something bold. He chose to represent himself in court. No lawyer, no filter. He cross-examined officers, questioned timelines, accused investigators of targeting him. But the evidence, DNA, fingerprints, phone records, cut through it all. The jury took about 2 hours. Verdict: guilty of second-degree murder, guilty of grand theft auto. Because of his status as a prison release reoffender, the judge had no flexibility. Sentence: life in prison without parole, plus 5 years for the stolen car to run concurrently. Tyrone's family spoke softly in court. They asked him to seek forgiveness and use his time to reflect. Salazar Diaz said nothing. Now he will spend the rest of his life behind bars, while the tattoos on his skin slowly fade, but the choices that put him there never will.
In the Clark County Detention Center in Las Vegas, one inmate stands out, even in a room full of hardened criminals. His head is shaved. His face is almost completely covered in black ink, shaped like eyeglasses and bullhorns that wrap around his skull. From the neck up, he looks like he's wearing a permanent mask. His name is James Gaina III, 50 years old, with 5 prior felony convictions and a history of violence and meth addiction. In August 2023, that violent history erupted in his own home. Late at night, neighbors in a Las Vegas neighborhood heard shouting coming from Gaina's rented house. One witness later told police it sounded like an argument spinning out of control. Then came 12 gunshots. When the noise stopped, there was only silence. Inside that house was 27-year-old Selena Rebolts, Gaina's girlfriend. According to investigators, during the argument, Gaina picked up a gun and shot Selena 12 times, most of them at close range. The scene inside told the rest of the story. Broken glass, overturned furniture, blood soaked into the carpet. After the killing, police say Gaina tried to hide what he'd done. He stripped Selena's body, carried her upstairs, and hid her in the attic above their bedroom. Then he rented a car. Prosecutors later argued he was planning to move the body before anyone realized she was missing, but his plan fell apart. The same witness who heard the shots grew worried when she couldn't reach Selena. She went back to the house, saw the aftermath, and called 911. 2 days later, on August 14, 2023, officers arrested James Gaina III. He was charged with murder with a deadly weapon, unlawful possession of a firearm by a prohibited person, and other related offenses. He wasn't supposed to have any gun at all. As a convicted felon, possession alone was illegal. In court, prosecutors painted a clear picture: a long history of domestic violence, a pattern of aggression fueled by drugs and paranoia, a final deadly outburst that he then tried to conceal.
They described him as a high-risk violent offender, someone who could not be trusted in or out of custody. Gaina pleaded not guilty. A special review board is still weighing whether the state will pursue the death penalty. For now, he sits in a Las Vegas jail cell awaiting trial. His face, tattooed into a permanent mask, has become a symbol of the rage that ended Selena's life. She was 27, quiet, loyal, trying to rebuild her future. Now her name is another entry in Nevada's long list of domestic violence homicides.
These 5 men didn't start with murder. They started with threats, assaults, weapons, domestic violence, drugs and gangs. Each time, the violence got a little worse. Each time, the stakes got a little higher. Until someone died. From Iowa house fires to Utah campuses, from rural Colorado burn pits to Las Vegas living rooms, the pattern is the same. When violent behavior isn't stopped, it almost never stays the same. It escalates. For the victims and their families, there is no real closure, just the knowledge that these men are finally off the streets and, in most cases, will never walk free again. If you watched this far, you're the kind of person who doesn't just look away from the dark side of human behavior. You want to understand it. If you want more deep dive breakdowns of real cases like these, subscribe to the channel. Like this video to help more people find it. And tell me in the comments, which of these cases disturbed you the most, and do you think the sentences were enough? Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next one.